but Dr. Newby totally did, and I'm really excited.
That music is brilliant.
Right?
It's like
so good.
dun 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 dun, and I'm like going yes, and it's just like I actually, because you know how I love my beats and the drums in mine, and it's just drives me potty. But
I was like, it's very fizzy, and
oh,
that's what
it's
we're going to
very
talk about.
fizzy. Stop. I was like dun 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 dun. Oh yeah. Oh my God, that was beautiful music. I must you must send it to me. I'll just keep playing it.
It's like a 35-second clip of music just on repeat. Okay.
Oh my
Welcome
goodness.
everybody to a special doubleheader week of the Conversation Show. I'm super excited to have my very good friend Dr. Nupi joining me today for a conversation that, well, this is what the show is about. Conversations that I don't think enough people are having. And what if more of us had more in our life?
Yes.
Someone is saying the sound is off, but I'm not sure if that is their computer with the sound off or that we are actually not projecting sound. So, if you are joining us live and you can hear us, can you please pop it in the chat just so I know that people hear before
That's
we
a
deep
very
dive
good idea.
into the
Yeah.
conversation because it would be a shame for us to have this
Yes.
wonderful
I
conversation.
yeah. I'm hearing lots of feedback. Are you?
Oh, no. So maybe it's
I-
me.
I'm hearing like
Let me change
it's
my audio input and see if that fixes it. 1 minute, everybody, because you know that nobody can get through a LinkedIn Live these days without some kind of technical
yeah,
difficulty.
absolutely. Oh God. Well, I took my very first one. I had like everything was freezing and I pretended I was a newsreader and I was going, uh-huh, let's go to studio. Yeah, back to studio. Right, yes.
How about now? Does that sound better?
Perfect. I need to turn it down.
You
It's
know
like,
what?
what was
Okay,
it?
for those of you who are being very helpful for us, Diana, Stephen, can you let us know if that sounds better? Because for whatever reason, my computer decided that they were going to pick up my audio through my webcam.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, my voice is still muffled. Let me try one more thing, you guys.
Yeah, sure.
Because my 4-year-old was playing with my legit microphone yesterday, and now I'm concerned. Actually,
Oh,
how about now?
I can hear you beautifully.
Okay. We're gonna go with this. Hopefully, you guys can hear me all right. Newpie's audio is fine, so as long as you can hear her Fizz. Oh, I got him much better. Okay, great. We
Yay,
are
let's go.
in it to win it
Yay.
today, guys. Okay, this is great. So we're here to talk about Fizz. And what is Fizz and all of these things, and how can we find more Fizz? And so before we get into the conversation, although we have lots of people in the chat already because you guys have been very helpful helping me with my audio, let's introduce you to Dr. Newby.
Yes.
So Dr. Newby, tell us a little bit more about you and why finding your Fizz is so important to you.
Well, first of all, my beautiful, wonderful friend, thank you for having me on today. Seriously, I did laugh. Thank you so much. It feels like we arranged this ages ago, which I think we did.
We did.
And I'd forgotten. And it came up, it popped up, and you said to me, and I was so excited. It was like, oh, I've just been given a little gift for the end of the week. How wonderful. This world of, oh, wonderful. Okay, so I am Dr. Nupi, aka the Glitter Practitioner. I am a real life doctor. I am a GP, a general practitioner in the UK, which is family physician. And I've been a GP for about 20 odd years now. And for the most part, I've been based in a deprived inner city practice where I've been the lead for safeguarding children, domestic abuse, trauma-informed care, and deprivation medicine. It's pretty juicy, chunky work, really. And I've always advocated for a holistic approach. And when I say holistic, I mean whole person centered care. So we're treating the whole person, not just the presenting issue. So somebody comes in, it's not just the presenting problem. That's just the manifestation almost of what's going on. I love what I do. I love people, as you know, and chatting, and I'm curious, I'm nosy. And there is a term for that, actually. It's professional curiosity in our language, in the physician world. But I've always wanted to know more and go delve, and that's the root cause approach. So it's, you know, understanding, I guess, somebody's problem that they're presenting with in context of their life, in their day to day, their backstory, their upbringing, their culture, society, what they know, because it's different. Somebody's pain in one person's life is going to be it's unique to you how you experience the world. And that's how I've always been. But it really woke up, I guess, in me this deeper level of understanding of health needs, which was through my own burnout, which was 12-ish years ago. And it was hideous. It was, oh God, it was ugh, horrible. It was just the most soul destroying, painful. It was, I mean, it feels like it was a different lifetime ago, to be honest. But I can still remember that feeling of just disconnect and absolute exhaustion. And it was like I was trapped in this black hole and I didn't know who I was anymore. And that was the truth. And it was at a time there was a lot of stuff going on. As a new mum of twins, had gone back to work sort of when they were 7 months old. And it wasn't instant. It was a combination of things. It was pressure at work. I mean, there's always pressure. There's always workload. But there was excessive because senior partners were retiring. Then there was stuff going on at home. It was just one thing after another. And I think for me, because I'm such a doer, I've got a big heart and I'm like, yeah, I'll serve you. Yeah, I do for others, no problem. But I was giving and giving and giving, and I'm like, yes, take some energy, no problem. Yeah, I didn't know how to say no. And it was, I kept hearing myself say, yeah, sure. And inside I'm going, fuck, why are you asking me? I'm not even on call today. But it was, I had a part to play as well. And, you know, you're not a finite reserve here. You're giving and to everybody else but me. And it's only when that you kind of go through this, you can go through a little bit of a deficit. You're still okay. You push it and push it and push it. And I remember when I stopped and crashed and burned, essentially, it was about, if I look back, it was a good few years. So it wasn't like instant, nor was it so drastic initially. I was still functioning because I was a high, functioning perfectionist at the time. And that's what, unrelenting standards, the works. And that's where I really, truly stopped, learned, looked after that's how I knew. I don't know what needs are. What do you mean? Hobbies? What the hell? I've no time for hobbies. This is what my therapist was talking about. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it was through that journey that this real understanding, deeper understanding of health needs, mind, body, and soul. And that's what when I recovered, I brought that back, that learning back into my own clinical practice and combined it with, conventional medical model. Of course, you put the two together, that's where you get the transformation and the healing. And that process that I created from my own learning, insights, and further discovery, that's my F list, which is exactly how you find your fizz again. And so that's where it all comes from.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes.
So you touched on many things and we will dive deeper into these things.
Yes.
One of the things that I find is really interesting is that there's so much of what we expect from ourselves that comes from the like general societal narrative.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so like David is sharing in the USA, big pharma dominates the whole medical field. Right. And you're like constantly shown these messages of this is how you deal with this. Right. This is the medication for this problem. If you have these symptoms, then there's something wrong with you. It needs to be fixed with medication. And he's also talking about the holistic approach and how the interconnectedness is so important to take into consideration. Vanessa's sharing people over profits versus people for people. Definitely. Right. I think when we're talking about big pharma, I'm not here to talk about big pharma today, but there's a lot and then that starts to just be part of our society, right? Like, and we make those decisions as individual humans based on that as well. You guys are blowing up the chat. I don't know how I'm going to keep up with this. You can't pour from an empty cup. boom, you can't, right? And there's so many of those things, like put your own oxygen mask on before you help others, right? Like we know them logically, but at the same time, because we're inundated by this conversation of like, this is what is normal, this is what's productive, this is what's acceptable as a societal standard, we miss out on the conversation that we're going to have today, which is about how can we talk more about these things that help us create Fizz instead of quite honestly glorifying the things that we even know, again, logically, destroy our Fizz. Like nobody wants to be walking around as flat soda, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what I would say. You know, it's like, who wants to be flat Coca-Cola? I mean, you have that when you're ill, for example. Hi Carl. Oh, it's lovely to see people's names pop up. But you know, it's your life, and this is the take home really, is that we're all human beings and your needs matter. End of. Your baseline needs are your physical, your emotional, psychological, and spiritual. And even if somebody didn't really understand about that, that's okay. It's a feeling. I mean, I've done this with patients for the last decade, if not longer. I don't need to go delving deep into spirituality. It's a feeling. It's the physessence within you. That's what I call. It's your inner light. And when you start, you know, when things start to flow, that's when you start to see your perspective change. And it's work in progress. It's about awareness. It's about awareness of your own self, your needs, a deeper expansion of understanding you and around you. And then all of a sudden, that's when the magic starts to happen. Absolutely every single time. And, you know, the whole sort of pressure, you know, women working this, you know, it's this, I have to do it all. So you're working, you're a mummy, you're doing all these different roles, which actually you've got to use different sides of you. And it's just taken for granted. Of course, you're going to do that. Okay, well, I don't know really what to do. It's very overwhelming. Oh my God. Or it's, you know, from society side of things, you know, it has to be done in a certain way. Well, does it serve you? And I'm not trying to sort of create a revolution here and start rebelling.
That's exactly what we're trying to do with this show.
Yeah, okay. Well, fine.
Create a revolution. Do you know what?
I'm a total disruptor, so that's fine. But I think to come back to that, specifically with physicians, because it's horrific. The number of physicians who are burning out, the number of physicians who are, you know, the suicide rates are just, it's heartbreaking. And the fact that somebody is at that level of distress and emotional, physical pain, it breaks. I mean, it's no. And I think those for the physicians, I guess, who love what they do, passionate about what you do, it's often the ones who care the most, really, who start burning because you want to understand what your needs are, understand and own them, protect them, know what does it mean? What does this look like in day-to-day life? And you should be absolutely, it's completely your right to live a life full of joy, full of passion and purpose and meaning and fizz and
all things. I think this is important because this kind of leads into Vanessa's question here, which is, how can you speak up for your own needs and self-care without coming across as sounding selfish? I think this is a self-talk that a lot of us have.
Yes, and this is a brilliant question, so thank you. Self-care, if we break that down, caring for self is not selfish. So it's when we talk about putting your needs first, it's not, I'm talking about basic human needs, which are food, water, fresh air, movement, the fun. Your soul needs fun, hobbies, quiet time, understanding your own limiting belief system, and understanding, is this, you know, if your perspective is sort of clouded because it's a negative perspective, you're not going to be able to shift that. So it's understanding how, and then all of a sudden things start to flow. And also it's treating yourself with true compassion and self-love and kindness, because we are our own worst enemy. And I know that because I didn't. And we can be our own worst enemies, and we talk to ourselves so critically. And would we talk like that to our children? I hope not. Or, you know, a friend, your bestest friend in the whole wide world. But it's okay to go, oh my God, I'm such a failure. I'm just, oh God, what's the point? Oh, I'm shit. I'm this, I'm this. And we then believe it because it becomes a vicious cycle. So it's understanding the mechanisms of, okay, so if I'm feeling fearful or doubtful or this, how does it all interplay? What's my body telling me? And anybody who has this programmed in them, you know, self-sacrifice, essentially, that, you know, let's be a martyr and be really stoical, and, you know, let's give everybody a medal for, like, I've had no sleep tonight, and oh yeah, isn't that great? Well, you know, it's going to catch up on you, quite frankly. It what it does, all of these things, when you're not in balance, it interplays in your physical, emotional health. You start sort of going into chronic stress mode, and that's how your body, the neuroscience, all your chemicals start to get disrupted. So you're not thinking straight anymore. You're not thinking with clarity. You're sort of befuddled. That's how it feels, or a bit foggy, or a little bit doubtful, or, you know, the lower energy vibrations start to come through, and you start feeling more tired, exhausted, and then it plays out more. So if you're not going to look after yourself, nobody else is. And it's not anybody else's responsibility to make you happy or peaceful or whatever it is. It's yours. And it's when you understand that and go, holy crap, man, I really need to look after myself. You doing that is going to make you an even better human being to serve other people. You're going to have bundles of energy. Whereas if you keep ignoring that and keep going, oh, I can't do it, it's too selfish, oh my God, I got to put everybody else first, because this is what happens, and it's ingrained in you. And I'm like, no, you don't. I mean, yes, you need to do certain things, but have you eaten? Have you drunk plenty of water? These are the basic things, and it's on my F list for a reason. And besides, the doctor said so. So there's your permission slip. You know,
and that's always helpful, right? To have permission from your doctor.
Yeah.
And I think this is really interesting, because one of the things that I realized, and quite honestly, I think it was triggered by something that Carl Schran said to me at one point, was that, what if the people around you want to take care of you as well, right? So a lot of us who are caregivers, nurturers, servant leaders, right? Our default mode is to try to make sure that the people around us are nurtured. And we're almost always surrounded by people who equally want that for you, right? So when you're not giving that to yourself, it's almost like a knock against the people, being like, I don't care what you want for me. I am going to just be a martyr and not give it, and not do that. But one of the things I would also mention just on the like selfishness scenario is that, who thinks it's selfish? Right? Do we actually think it's selfish?
Or are you being told?
Right. Someone else. Almost never is there someone else that's telling you, no, you shouldn't do that. That's selfish. Sometimes that will happen, but very rarely is that the case. A lot of times that societal narrative is, it's actually funny. I read this article quite a while ago about motherhood through the ages and what the narrative was as a mother. And in the time zone in which I became a mother, it was very much about, you sacrifice everything about yourself for that kid, right? And so because that's the narrative, that's what we do. Except it doesn't work, right? And one of the things we don't teach our kids then is how to take care of themselves. We're only teaching them how to take care of other people. We're not teaching them to take care of themselves. And that's not what we want to do either.
No.
So I think it's really interesting to explore that, like, who is saying this? Who is saying it is like that, right?
Yes, it's the inner voice of shame.
Yeah.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on. So your inner defense, so, your inner critic, whatever you want to call, it's that negative side of you. It's I call it critter chatter. And it's these things that have shaped and governed you to who you are and your experiences. So, you know, if you're being criticized, say as a child, and it does stem back to that. If you're being criticized a lot, then you're either going to do one of two things. Very simplistically, you're either going to rebel, or you're going to be just people pleasing and just be quiet and to get on with it and really strive to keep doing well. And that's where perfectionism starts coming in, unrelenting standards, and bang, before you know it, as an adult, you're not able to see wood for trees, whether or not, am I resting? Am I doing this? And then push comes to shove, you get triggered, you go directly into the child mode because you've not learned healthy adult coping mechanisms to go, okay, well, what I've just done there is good enough, and that's fine. And it is all dependent on this. And the underlying base energy of this is fear. But even more than that, it's deeper. It's shame. Actually, and that I really resonate with that. Fear is, you know, your fight flight. You're basically in defense mode. Shame is so much. It's deeper, isn't it? And it's just, oh God, you know, I can't show my face, and oh, I've really messed up, and fear of failure, and you know, self-doubt, and all this inner chatter. That's what F off is all about. My first F on the F is basically get off.
Well, and this is interesting because to me, everything you're saying is talking about shoulds, right? Like when we are feeling ashamed, it's because we think something should have been different. We should have done something differently. And again, like, it's just is so interesting that, like, who says,
yes,
right? Who said
exactly.
It should be like that? Who said this is one of the like most powerful experiences I've had in parenting, because you feel like there's mom shame, mom guilt is a real thing. Okay. Legit thing. I'm not a dad. I don't know if it's the same for dads, but it's a legit a thing for moms. And it's because we think we should be able, we should be able to show up full-time working in corporate and have a side hustle and take care of the kids and run the household. And if you gave anybody that job description and was like, and
I just look at you going, what the hell?
To make
what are you doing?
People would be like, no. Right. And so it's like, who at the end of the day, we're the ones creating those expectations of ourselves, even though they're influenced by the societal narrative.
But I was just going to say, sometimes you don't know differently as well. And I've worked with communities who they're not shown, you know, they've come from a different background essentially. So you're starting from scratch. But the one thing is, no, there's no should is a pressure. I need to that. No, I will. I want to. It's changing the language that you speak about yourself and how you project it out. That's where the ownership comes in. So when I've had patients or clients who've said, well, I'm doing this and nothing seems to be working, I'm still trying to lose weight, for example, and you know, oh, this isn't working, and then you break it down where the barriers are, and it's almost, well, okay, so this is the plan, this is what we need to do together. So it's quite straightforward, really. And I simplify it for a reason, because when your head gets in the way, it becomes more complicated. You either do this and things are going to work, or it's not going to happen, but you need to understand what your role to play is and take ownership. So if I didn't go out for a walk for like the next 10 weeks, I've chosen not to. I'm not going to sit here then and berate myself and beat myself up that, and then, oh God, I'm so rubbish, I'm like this. I've chosen not to. And it's stepping into that fully. And there's different layers as you learn and as you grow, but it's when you can really start getting rid of the BS. I'm really conscious of not really blowing the airways up with swearing tonight.
I'm pretty impressed, actually, just saying.
Thanks. I'm very good today, actually. I've really tamed it. It's getting rid of the BS around stuff like this and clearing it. And that is then, okay, what do I really want to do? Tune in. Not what your mind and this says. What do you feel from here? And there's a difference. That's when you become more, you're tuning into your needs, essentially, and you are then living authentically. You are being instead of do. it's exhausting. So
it really is. This is why I love your concept of physessence, right? Because
yes,
even in the word and the
it's
concept
gorgeous.
of fizz, right? Like
Yes.
it's a feeling. Like you
Yes.
feel fizzy or you
Yes.
don't feel fizzy.
Yes.
So let's assume that some people who are watching this episode today are feeling like they don't think they have quite enough fizz
Yes.
in their life. So what are some of the first steps that people who are feeling not as fizzy as they would like
Yes.
can take to find more fizz?
Lovely. I love it. And I'll tell you where phizessence comes from, because effervescent is my favorite word. And effervescent to me is just this, oh, it's beautiful. And it sounds as it is. So, and fizz is, my energy anyway. So I combined the two, phizessence, and it's your inner light. So somebody who's feeling a bit flat or a little bit, they can feel they're not as how they want to be. So what I say is take a big step back and let's go back down to basics. So understanding that your whole self, when it's in balance, it's mind, body, and soul. And if it's all interlinked. So if one's off kilter, the others are going to follow. And you might not recognize, oh, it's actually because of this, that this is why this is happening. So you break it down to basics and then take a step back and go, right, F off. That's the first F, because the mind will keep going and oh, I need to do this. And oh my God, oh, I'm feeling like this. What do I do? Blah, 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 blah. F it off. And let's get back to the basics. Focus and breathe and bring yourself back to a center point. And then tune in. So physical health, basic stuff, food, fluids, and fresh air. So food, look at the body. It's fuel for your body. If you eat crap, you're going to feel like crap. It's not rocket science, really. Eat the right food at the right time, the quantity, the portion size, what your body needs to move, essentially. Fluids, plenty of water. Your body needs it. It's the functioning of your organs, all of that. Alcohol, I mean, I love a glass of wine myself, but if you're feeling frazzled, if you're feeling fatigued all the time and you're not okay, alcohol's a depressant. It's going to impair your sleep. You have poor sleep, jeepers creepers, it's going to make your mood worse. All of these, then it gets much, much worse. Those are two little basic things. So up your fluids, eat, sensibly, healthily, fresh air, movement, exercise. Even if it's just a walk outside, a change of scene lifts your vibration, lifts your energy. So that's the physical side of things. Those are just the basics. Then you've got the emotional side of things, which is fun. Are you doing the things that make your heart sing? Are you doing them regularly? If the answer is, yeah, well, I go out for a coffee with a best mate maybe once a month. That was me when I was burnt out. That's not enough. Your soul needs, and I'm not talking, go out, get smashed or this. It's giving permission to yourself to set some time away for you. And it could be creative things, it could be quiet time stuff, and it's rediscovering hobbies maybe you had as a kid and doing it regularly. And when my patients and clients have done this, they'd come back and I'd be like, show me what you've done. And I've got like somebody's, oh, I'll show you, had not crocheted, what's that thing called? Cross stitched. She came back and gave me a cross stitched F list. And I was like, oh my God, that's just so cute. I burst into tears and hugging her and everything. I keep everything people make because it's a representation of their journey and what they've discovered again. So fun, you need that fun. Then you've got flip, which is all about perspective and understanding. There's always a flip side. There's always might feel really negative, but it's understanding these limiting beliefs and looking, okay, how else could I look at this? Friends, which is all about connection. So am I connecting with like-minded, or am I kind of doing things because I feel like I ought to? And actually, I really don't want to do that. These people are making me feel like this, or actually, is it a give and take, or do I feel drained? And if so, well, what can I do about it? I don't need to put myself in that situation. And these are the sort of the fine-tuning bits. Then you've got flow, which is when you're in flow and things are nicely in balance. It's when you recognize that everything is balanced and what I need to do that. And the last F is fabulous, because even in your most vulnerable self, so you're shattered, your fizz isn't great, blah, 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 you are still fabulous. There's so much strength in vulnerability, but it's allowing yourself to go, let's just notice how I'm feeling. Okay, what can I do? What is out of my control? Which, okay, I'm going to stop that then. I can't do anything about it. What can I do to help myself? Who do I need to ask? What else could be done? And when you start thinking like that, which is where the breath work comes in, you keep your mechanisms and the way you process things in respond mode. Very often, when you're not feeling well or your fizz levels are low, something's caused that. Something's not right. There's an unmet need somewhere. And then it's discovering what that unmet need is. It could be something in the present. It could be something biting you in the ass from the past. It could be that you're worrying and for the future. And it's understanding, okay, it's here and it's now. What do I need to do? What can I do? And once that fundamental principle is embedded, it comes more naturally. It might feel, oh my God, I need to do this. And I'm like, it'll start becoming habitual. And then the affirmations that go with this, it's tuning into you again, ownership. No what shoulds and would, oh, I need to, I should do. I will, because I'm choosing to. I want to. I'm choosing to do this. I've taken responsibility. And then I'm worth it, not in the L'Oreal hair flick way. It's more sassy and badass. It's like Missy Elliott, I'm worth it. Yeah, worth it. Dun, and deserve it. Yeah. I do that with my patients all the time. And they love it. They're like, oh my God, yeah.
Everybody loves Missy Elliott, who is seemingly aging backwards. So maybe we all have something to learn from her in terms of fizz.
But it's holding that, and then you're giving somebody hope, and you're giving somebody skills they can go away and use today. So, and they might need more support with therapy, with counseling, with other interventions. But if you've got the baseline, and then I know how to look after myself properly, just what it never fails to, it always works. And that's what lights me up, because when I see that in motion and it's happening, and I see somebody shift within a few weeks even, and the light comes back in their eyes and it's all sparkly, that's the fizz essence, that's the light. That's the fizz that I see, and I feel that energy, and my patient feels it, or my client feels it. They're like, oh my God, I don't know what you've done. You just sprinkled glitter and I'm like, yeah, that's right, I have. Well, you've done
that's
it.
Why
I've
she's
just shown
a
you.
Glitter practitioner.
Yes, yes, exactly. I love it. And then I've always, that's my signature look. I always have like glittery eyes.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is really awesome, because one of the things that I like about the F list is that there's multiple things, right? And sometimes one can seem more easy access than the other one. So like maybe as Dr. Newby went through this, you're like, oh yeah. Actually, it's funny because I have been feeling like I want it. Well, I'll tell you, my husband the other day, back up. We were looking at Jupiter. It's the closest it's been.
I saw that. Yes, I saw that.
In the last 59 years. And so I was telling Nicholas, who's 4, so he probably won't remember seeing Jupiter, but we did see it through our telescope. And so I was saying, like, we maybe would be able to see it again, right? Like I would be 97 if it's another 59 years before it comes back around. And my husband said, I was like, yeah, sometimes people live till they're like 103 and things like that. And he's like, well, if you have the right lifestyle and you eat the right food, then you can live that long. And I was like, oh, you're right. I feel like I could make some pretty simple changes here that would make a difference. And so anyway, in the last 2 days, I've been focusing a lot more on like clean eating and like not anything crazy, right? Like no keto diet or anything like that, but just like eating clean, eating like high amounts of protein, right? I rediscovered my love for chickpeas, which is great. But it's like, that was a thing. I was just like, oh, okay, yes, I can do something about this right now.
And you feel better. It's the win-win cycle, you see. So when you actually commit to something and knowing either you discover it yourself or you've been guided to, say, and you start feeling and you instantly see that and feel that, it motivates you to do more. And the problem is sometimes that motivation side of things, if you're really not okay, you can still do this. It's almost saying, this is your prescription. I need you to do this food and what it is. And you break it down even further. And the way that's the whole reason, with, especially with patients, because there might be other underlying things going on, which therefore their motivation, it's not straightforward there. So with the best will in the world, but you're giving somebody a roadmap almost. You're giving somebody the framework. And when you say, this is the prescription, it's on there for a reason. I actively want you to have fun. And it's there, and I want to see it when you come back. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I can do that. You start feeling better because you've empowered somebody to go, actually, it doesn't need to be like this. I can change it. And that's that shift of your mindset, and it's shifting people from no hope, and this is it now for the rest of my life, oh my God, to, oh wow, you know what? I can do anything. And every day is different. You get to govern what happens next. And that's the beauty about this. And, you know, it's take one step at a time. So start with something. If it's one thing, and that's the important bit.
So talk to us briefly, Dr. Nupi, about like I feel like it's a little bit easy when, like, if my GP was going to be like, I prescribe to you fun and you must have fun. And now it's like someone has told me the steps to do. And so I am going to go and do it. How can we initiate that, like, self-empowerment, give ourselves the permission to say, like, I am going to investigate how I can influence more fun into my life.
So I guess it's understanding, what are my baseline needs? Am I in balance? What does out of balance look and feel like? Well, it looks like exhaustion, tired, anxious, stress, overwhelm, burnout, all of these things. Hi, Joseph. Hi, Boommaster. He's Supersonic Boommaster. And it's understanding your baseline needs and what you need, what actually is the requirement. And then it's being aware. It's when you wake up and you're actually aware to checking in. How do I feel? Really? Not, how are you? Yeah, I'm okay. Okay, that means nothing to me. How are you really? And you ask yourself these questions. And then it's like, well, actually, I feel really quite pissed off today. Okay, why? What's going on? You become more inquisitive, curious. And I think that's the first step. It's recognizing and being true to yourself that, you know what, I don't feel okay. I don't know why. Okay. Right, take a step back. And my ebook is coming out as well. Please use my ebook, which is free.
But I think one of the other things I want to touch on today, and Joseph's comment about change the world with one kind gesture at a time, giving people a blueprint to kindness and happiness. Because I can see, I'm not going to spoil this with my opinions of it. I will ask you the question first. Yeah. There's a non-fizzy martyr version of us that shows up to serve people, and there's a Fizz-tastic version of us that shows up to serve people. Yeah. What is the difference?
So the non-fizzy, the martyr. So I would then I would want to know, why are you martyring yourself? It's all that self-sacrifice, which is an unmet need. Who are you trying to prove? Whose approval are you looking for? And actually, it's understanding you don't need anybody's approval, only your own. Are you doing this for you because you choose and want to? Well, then you have to then take responsibility for the fact if you're going to do that and then neglect perhaps that you're not looking after yourself, in the same breath, your energy levels are going to go down. You're not looking, of course it's going to happen. So it's understanding, okay, if I'm saying yes to that because I feel I know this is what I do, and yes, I will do this, then what are you actually saying no to for yourself about? And if you can work the balance, I mean, everybody's different. Some people are, you know, generically more extrovert. They're going to be more, oh my God, yeah, 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 yeah. And exactly. And whereas some people are a bit quieter with that, but it's understanding you. You have to understand yourself. Am I happy? Am I feeling fulfilled? Am I living my life, you know, in tune with what I really want to be doing, my passions, what lights me up? Go back down to basics and dare to dream is what I say. It's the first part of my coaching program. Dare to dream. You can do anything. Money's not an option. It's an issue. Pretend you're 5 years old and, you know, if you wanted to be a mermaid fairy, you could be. That's what my daughter always used to say. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, yeah, I still think I can. But dare to dream as big as you want. And, you know, that's how you can start crafting things and sussing out, well, this might have fulfilled you 10 years ago. Does it still fulfill you? So it's getting deeper into, how am I? How happy am I? What's really going on? And then starting to have this conversation with yourself. That's when you start to then sort of go, okay, well, I'm happy with that. That's cool. That's fine then.
Yeah.
But martyrdom in itself is, it's unmet. Well, it's self-sacrifice. You're looking for approval, essentially. That's the baseline behind it. Might not always be, but a sense of duty in this. And, you know, there's a range of what's norm anyway. Some people could be very extreme. Some people could be like, I'll do it if I need to. It's finding your happy balance. As long as you are feeling good, if you're feeling, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got to go and do this, then you're not stopping, you're not taking notice of really truly what this is saying. And that's where I would say to somebody, pause, check in with yourself, and then sense check it. It takes no time.
And it's something that takes less time as you practice it. Peeps.
Absolutely.
So
it's
these
consistency.
Practice items, things that you're building a habit off of. It's not like even me, right? Like, I don't change my diet in one day. Right? I still had beer at dinner yesterday, but it's like, it's making the changes that you can make and progressively doing that. And one of the things that I just think of, I mean, I'm a big believer in that, like, energy flows between people, right? Yes. And so if I can show up with my fizzy version of myself, or I can show up with my depleted version of myself, then like the energy I give to people matches that energy, right? So sure, I can show up lots from depleted energy and give depleted energy.
What's going to come back?
Boo. Or I can take some of that time, and this is what we're saying, you guys, because if you're in a space of giving away lots of your time right now to the other people, then we're talking about taking some of that time back. Yes. But we're also talking about, by taking some of that time back, what you give back to the people, even though it might be a smaller amount of time, is much more meaningful. And it provides a higher level of connection, a higher level of love, a higher level of acceptance, and all of these things that you might be trying to show up to do. And so it does make a difference to take that time back for yourself and say, I'm not going to show up. Let's think about this from a social media perspective for a moment, right? Because you can be like, I can show up as my fizzy self, or I can show up as my self. And like, everybody wants to say, well, of course I would want to show up as my fizzy self. And one of the biggest struggles I see for people on social media is that, like, you're not taking the time to actually be a fizzy version of yourself. So now you're just trying to like fake fizzy energy from your depleted energy, and that never works. So my thing that I would like to say there, it is about energy, it is about vibration, and you can shift it yourself, or, you know, with knowing what your needs are though, and why you're depleted in the first place. Give yourself the pause time to recuperate.
if that's the case, it's not normal life to be fizztastic the whole time. It might seem that people are. They're not. They're not.
I do think this is important because I think for a lot of you, especially with like Dr. Newby and me on this show, they'd be like, well, you guys are fizztastic all the time, right? Like, no.
I say this all the time, actually, because and I say this when I'm talking to Russ or different shows, that one thing I really want to get across is this takes time, consistency, patience. It is possible. This does not mean I go around, happy skipping the whole day, all day. I mean, I get giddy, but, I know what lights me up and I just make sure I bloody do it, essentially. But it's the little things. It's like, looking around the world and going, I might see a robin and I get so excited when I see robins in the garden because it's a sign for me from the universe. I know it is. And it's when you become you become more expansive in what you see, or awareness. That's when you can start actually raising your vibration yourself. And then the other thing, something what you said earlier actually is when you show up full of fizz or show up depleted, then that sort of matches or mirrors the energy around you. Then, you've got a choice. You've got a choice. Take a step back. What do you need to do to give you that boost? Because if you are giving but not replenishing yourself, you are always going to be in that negative balance, and that is not going to sustain it. You'll end up burning out, essentially. And it's checking in on yourself and keeping it topped up and keeping yourself maintained. When you're like that, you can it's effortlessly, it's flowing. And that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that's one of the things we logically get, that we have, we worry about maintenance on our car or making sure our phone is plugged in.
Yes. Yes.
We have to do the maintenance on ourselves as well. Right. Yeah. And it's
essential. Full stop.
And we need to just know it, right? Everybody has a different version of what that is, right? Yeah. So we don't all put the same kind of petrol in our car. And so we need to, these are the things that we can start looking for now. Like, what are those things that make me feel fizzy? What are the things that don't? How, what do I think is making me not fizzy in those scenarios? Because normally, when we start looking at things like your passion, your values, right? These things that are really innately woven into your personal brand, and we don't always have really good clarity on what that is in a moment. But when we start to explore, ooh, this is super interesting. I'm feeling super uncomfortable right now. I went to a networking event once, and I love networking and people. And I went to this one networking event and I left within the first 10 minutes because I was like, I'm so uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
But then what I did was like, okay, what made me love your business peeps networking event, and what made me hate that, need to escape from that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not that it's bad. It's just not me. It was not a good reflection of me. And it gave me a lot of really great insights into what I care about getting out of a networking event. And if I'm not going to get that, then I'm not going to go with one. So, and that's different for me than it is for Dr. Nupi, than it is for David, than it is for Joseph, right? Like for all of us.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Different. And so being able to get that insight, I think is hugely important, and remembering that it's unique to you. It's not something like, well, Dr. Newby says she goes for a walk every day, so I should go for a walk every day, and that'll make me fizzy. Well, it might. You could try it.
It's what lights you up. And I think as well, if you're coming from a perspective of a lower vibration and it's more negative and it's lower here, your lens is colored in that way. It's very then difficult to say what lights me up. I don't know. Okay, so what doesn't light you up? What don't you like? Because as human beings, your mind is programmed more towards negative bias. It's much easier to say, well, I hate that, I don't like that, and I don't like that. Okay, then let's write your don't want list. At least we know that bit, and then you start to go, oh my God, yeah, I see it now. It starts to, you kind of just shift through.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to say, because when you're in a not a great mindset, trying to think what your values are or trying to think what my passions are, it's really quite hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard. I'm like, I don't know anymore. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I do it all the time. And I'm like, somebody says, okay, come on, come and do a talk. And I'm like, yeah. Oh, what am I going to talk about? Because this inner critic voice is going, oh, nah, you don't know what you're doing, or this or that. And actually, I do bloody well know what I'm going to talk about. Of course I do.
Well, once you get there, you just start talking about all the things that you know, and then it's fine.
Precisely.
Before we wrap up today, I do want to talk about one other thing, because when we were talking about energy and energy flowing, Dr. Nupi, what's the benefit in surrounding ourselves with other people who we see as being fizzy when we feel like that's a goal of ours, to be more fizzy?
Absolutely, because it's, as you learn, you grow, you evolve, you pass it on, and that's the whole thing. Those are one of my 3 favorite words, and what I'm really sort of define, part of my market, my branding is, it's inspire, and it's encourage, and it's empower, and these are the things. When you are fizzy and feeling that way, people, it's like you're in a light. That's the fizz essence. You radiate this light. And that's the energy vibration you're giving off. People come, they want to be in that. And because it helps them to feel, oh yeah, feeling much a bit better there. Oh wow, that was great. What just happened there, kind of thing. You're passing it on. You're showing them somebody else, and then they become uplifted, inspired, empowered, and then they're passing it on. That's the whole ripple effect of this, of this, how this works. So if your vibration's not great, and if you're surrounding yourself with positive people who get it, it's not false positive and toxic positivity, I don't mean that, then it's going to rub off on you. And in the converse way, hi Michael, I was chatting to Michael last night. In the converse way, if your energy vibration is not great and you're surrounded by a lot of negativity, a lot of criticism stuff, and just it's bringing you down, recognize it's making you feel like that, and be absolutely ruthless who you spend and who you give your time with, because you have a part to play. You don't need to put up with that, is what I'm trying to say. You get to choose what you do. And when you give yourself permission to do that, watch your whole world just turn around. Seriously, every single time. So
it's so, I just want to share a quick story with you all, because I recently learned that historically my parents have sucked my energy.
Sorry.
Right?
Yes.
And other people might have this experience as well, or with other family members, or with community members right now. And I am so proud to be surrounded by a community of people who constantly encourage me to stand up for my energy boundaries. Like, my energy is mine, and you don't get to take it unless I choose to give it to you.
Yes.
And there's this scenario, and like lots of tension between my parents. And I was like, no, like, I choose to remove myself, not to run away, but I choose to, this is no. And it was actually on my doorstep, and I was like, this is not acceptable right now, right? Like, you two have your thing and you can go and take it away, but this is not going to influence my energy today.
I love it. Well done.
And that takes practice, you guys. I did not just hop straight to that. But this is why I wanted to just wrap up with this concept of the community, right? Because when you are surrounded by people who are fizzy, but more importantly, encourage you to explore what your fizz is, and there's people who want to celebrate your unique fizz, because everybody's fizz is different.
Yes.
Those are the people, right? That is where you can start to take some of the energy, right? Those people are in a space where they can more readily give
this is what I'm here for, Kia.
Right.
Let me give
this is what we're here for today, actually.
I'm just so
right.
Glitter.
So what glitter bombs, right, is what's coming from Dr. Newby. And so this is the opportunity. This is the benefit in being on this side of the conversation. When society has all of these narratives that we start to realize are dulling our fizz, that we can be surrounded by people and be surrounded by conversation and exploration and discovery of what our fizz is, that is when we get to bring it to the world. So that's why we brought this conversation to you guys today. I'm super happy that so many of you were here actively participating in the chat. The very last thing I want to say, for those of you who are new to the show, you won't have heard me say this, but everybody else, sorry for the repetition because I say it every time. But being in one conversation is a great start. And being in one conversation very rarely accomplishes a thing. And so if finding fizz is something that you're interested in, or there's someone in your community who could use more fizz, or you're trying to be that conduit of fizz for people, for clients, for your family, for your community, for wherever, staying in the conversation is critical. So Dr. Newby, if people want to stay in the conversation with you specifically, where's a great place for them to do that?
So come and find me on LinkedIn, please, please, please. I've got my Calendly links are all up. Website's about to launch. I've got my ebook, which is coming out in probably a couple of weeks, but you will find me on LinkedIn. I have my own LinkedIn live show every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight. No, it's not 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight. It's my time, noon Pacific Daylight. And then another show where this is the type of conversations I'm having. Find me on LinkedIn, reach out to me. You can book a free call with me, half an hour, whatever time it takes. Have a call. Let's just have a chat is what I would say. And I love this. It's brilliant. It's just, I could talk about this for hours, seriously, because I love it.
And if you haven't already connected with Dr. Nupi Peeps, then definitely do so. I am, if you guys know me, connect with me. I want to talk about these types of things all the time. And check out the other peeps who are in the chat. If you're not already connected with each other, these are also people who want to be in the conversation about finding fizz. And even if we feel really fizzy today, right? It is helpful to be part of that community where people are supporting each other to be fizzy on a daily basis.
Exactly. It's amazing. And you know, when you said earlier, actually, it's so true. I wrote something today about, certain families, as you grow, you're growing up, it might not be the environment that's the best for you. From what you just said before, very similar story, actually. And it makes you who you are, and it's what you learn from it. But it's when you're finding I call them my soul connections, but like-minded people who are there for you with unconditional love and unconditional support. They're your people. And they're the ones who are there to lift and to uplift you. So find your people who make you feel like that. And then, that's the connection that you were sort of alluding to before. I think it's so important. It doesn't have to be your blood family. It's very often somebody who you didn't even think about. Precisely. Yeah.
And it could even be, I've had this happen to me. It could even be that random person who posts something on LinkedIn and you're like, oh my gosh, I resonate with that so much. And then you connect with them and you're like, oh my gosh, we are best friends. And I can't believe we didn't know each other already. Like me and Dr. Newby.
That's exactly what happened.
We met on another live and we were like, we need to be friends. And this is the point, right? Your peeps. And also for those of you who don't know, I run a community called Your Business Peeps. It is all about peepery. So if that's something else you would like to explore, connect with me and we'll talk about it. But we are out of time for today, which we totally expected to happen because Dr. Newby and I are both chatters. Thank you so much, Dr. Newby, for this wonderful conversation today.
Thank you so much for
everybody joining us live. And until next time, permission to do you. Bye.